So Caitlin Clark was playing in a game against, what's the name of the other team? What a bunch of spoiled, jealous brats. All I want to hear from them is thank you.
Did you see what happened to Caitlin Clark? The WNBA's rising star just faced an unexpected challenge on the court, and it's got everyone talking. You might be thinking it's just another day in pro basketball, but this incident is sparking a much bigger conversation. Let's break down what really went down and why it's causing such a stir. Remember that jaw-dropping moment when Caitlin Clark burst onto the scene? Well, get ready for another shocker. That during a recent game against the Chicago Sky, something happened that left fans stunned. Picture this. Clark's moving down the court, focused on the game. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an opposing player crashes into her from behind. The ball nowhere near them. This wasn't just a regular play gone wrong. It looked deliberate. Now you might be thinking, isn't basketball a contact sport? Sure, but this was different. The timing, the force, it all seemed off. People in the stands were on their feet, phones out, capturing what looked like an assault right there on the court. Social media exploded, comment sections filled up faster than you can say foul play. But here's where it gets really wild. The reactions? They were all over the place. Some fans were outraged, calling for penalties, suspensions, you name it. They saw this as a clear attack on Clark, maybe even jealousy over her rising star power. But others, they shrugged it off. That's just basketball, they said. If you can't take the heat, get off the court. And the player involved? That's Camilla Kennedy. Now, you'd think after something like this, she'd be apologizing left and right, but nope. Kennedy came out swinging, not with her fists this time, but with her words. She said, and I quote, "I don't have any regrets with anything. I'm going to compete and play 100% hard no matter who it is." Talk about doubling down. This got people talking even more. Is this the kind of toughness we want in women's basketball, or is it crossing a line? Some say Kennedy's just playing old school, no-nonsense ball. Others think she's taking it too far, maybe even putting other players at risk. And it's not just fans weighing in, even big names are getting involved. Whoopi Goldberg, yeah, that Whoopi, jumped into the fray. She defended the physical nature of the game, basically saying, hey, this is what basketball looks like. But is she right? Should we expect or even want this level of aggression in the WNBA? Yep. Just when you thought this controversy couldn't get any hotter, Megyn Kelly steps into the ring, and let me tell you, she's not pulling any punches. The former Fox News anchor has some thoughts on Caitlin Clark, and they're stirring up a whole new level of debate. Kelly didn't just defend Clark, she went full throttle, suggesting that the backlash against the basketball star goes way beyond what's happening on the court. She's saying there's something else at play here, something that's got people talking about more than just jump shots and free throws. Now, you might be thinking, what could be more important than Clark's game? Well, according to Kelly, it's all about how Clark looks and where she comes from. Yeah, you heard that right. Kelly brought up two big ideas that are making waves: pretty privilege and white privilege. Here's what Kelly said, and it's got people buzzing. There is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. Whoa, that's not something you hear every day in sports commentary, is it? But Kelly didn't stop there. She's suggesting that Clark's popularity isn't just about her incredible skills on the court, it's about how she looks and the color of her skin. Now, whether you agree with Kelly or not, you've got to admit she's opened up a whole can of worms here. This isn't just about basketball anymore. Kelly's comments have sparked a much bigger conversation. We're talking about race, gender, and even sexuality in sports. It's like she took all these hot button issues and tossed them onto the court along with the basketball. Think about it. Are white athletes, especially women, facing a different kind of scrutiny? Is Clark's popularity partly because she fits a certain image? These are the questions Kelly's putting out there, and they're not easy ones to answer. And here's where it gets even more complicated. The WNBA isn't just any sports league. It's known for its diversity, its strong representation of LGBTQ+ players. So when someone like Clark comes along and becomes the face of the league, it's bound to stir up some feelings. Now that we've seen how Caitlin Clark's situation has stirred up quite the debate, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Basketball has a rich history of breaking down barriers, and it's worth exploring how we got here. Think about this, and back in the day, basketball was one of the first sports to really embrace integration. It wasn't just about black and white players sharing the court. It was about talent shining through, no matter where you came from or what you looked like. Remember the Harlem Globetrotters? They weren't just entertainers, they were trailblazers. In the 1940s and 50s, when racial segregation was still the norm, these guys were out there showing the world that skill knows no color. They played against all-white teams and beat them soundly, proving that talent is what really matters on the court. And let's not forget about players like Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. These guys weren't just accepted, they were celebrated. They became the faces of the NBA at a time when racial tensions were high in America. But on the court, it was all about how well you could play. So how does this connect to Caitlin Clark's situation today? Well, it's complicated. On one hand, Clark's incredible skill is undeniable. She's breaking records and drawing crowds like no one else. In that sense, she's following in the footsteps of those great players who were celebrated for their talent. But here's where things get tricky. Unlike those early pioneers, Clark isn't breaking down racial barriers. Instead, she's facing a different kind of scrutiny. People are questioning whether her popularity is about more than just her skills. Is it because she's white? Because she's attractive? These are the kinds of questions that weren't really part of the conversation back in the day. And then there's the current WNBA landscape to consider. Did you know that about 30% of WNBA players identify as part of the LGBTQ+ community? That's a significant number. It means the league has become a space that celebrates diversity in a way that goes beyond just race. So when someone like Clark becomes the new face of women's basketball, it raises some interesting questions. Is her rise to fame changing the image of the WNBA? How does it affect the perception of a league that's known for its inclusivity? Some people might argue that Clark represents a step backward, that her popularity is based on her fitting a more traditional image. Others would say she's just that good, and her success has nothing to do with her appearance or background. The truth is, it's probably not that simple. Clark's situation shows us that even in 2023, we're still grappling with questions of representation and what it means to be the face of a sport. So we've seen how Caitlin Clark's rise to fame has sparked some serious debates, but this isn't just about one player or one incident. It's about something much bigger. We're talking about the values we hold in sports, in education, and in society as a whole. Think about it. When you watch a game, what do you expect to see? Hard plays, fierce competition, maybe even a little roughness? Or do you want a clean, safe game where everyone walks away unscathed? It's not an easy question to answer, is it? Take Whoopi Goldberg's take on the whole thing. She came out swinging, defending the physical nature of basketball. She said, "This is basketball. This happens in basketball all the time." It's like she's saying, hey, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. But is that the right way to look at it? On the other hand, you've got people worried about player safety. They're asking, what if someone gets seriously hurt? It's not just about winning or losing anymore. It's about the long-term health of these athletes. And let's be real, a major injury could end a career before it even really gets started. But here's where it gets really complicated. This isn't just about what happens on the court. It's about how we see these players off the court too. Are we judging them based on their skills, or are we letting other things cloud our judgment? Things like race, appearance, or background. And it's not just affecting Caitlin Clark. This whole controversy could have a huge impact on the WNBA and women's sports in general. Think about it. If people start thinking the league is too rough, or that certain players are getting special treatment, what does that do to the fan base? Could it turn people away from women's basketball altogether? But maybe, just maybe, this is exactly what the sport needs. A little controversy to get people talking, to get them invested. After all, they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Now, here's where you come in. Next time you're watching a game, or reading about a player, or even just chatting about sports with your friends, ask yourself, am I seeing the whole picture, or am I letting other things influence my opinion? Because here's the truth, the media plays a huge role in shaping how we see these athletes. One headline, one viral clip, one tweet. That's all it takes to form an opinion these days. But is that fair? Is that the whole story? Take Caitlin Clark for example. Some people see her as the future of women's basketball, a game changer who's bringing in new fans and taking the sport to new heights. Others see her as someone who's getting special treatment, maybe because of how she looks or where she comes from. But which view is right? Or is the truth somewhere in the middle? And it's not just about Clark, it's about every athlete out there. Are we judging them fairly? Are we looking at their skills, their hard work, their dedication, or are we letting other factors cloud our judgment? This whole situation is forcing us to take a hard look at ourselves, at our biases, at the way we view sports and athletes. It's not comfortable, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we need to be uncomfortable to make progress. So the next time you hear about a controversial play or a rising star or a heated debate in the sports world, don't just accept what you're told. Dig deeper, ask questions, think critically, because at the end of the day, sports are about more than just who wins or loses. They're a reflection of our society, our values, and ourselves.